Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for die-hard Houston sports fans from a die-hard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite die-hard Houston Texans podcaster. I am a coffee lover, an iced coffee devotee, and a frappe denier. I'm also, of course, a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I was there before that IKEA off of I-10 and Silver. I was there in the before times, 1,000 years ago. I've actually, spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here where I live now in Los Angeles. And now I'm podcasting. That's what happens after you hit 10 years out here in LA. You foolishly start thinking that hiking is fun, and they give you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brother, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full experience. Let me try to say that again correctly. spacecadetsports.substack.com. I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project because most media, was really infuriating for me as a diehard fan of the Houston Astros, and then it expanded into a podcast, and now just me sharing my love for all things Houston sports related, and seeing that it's football season. Of course, I am excited about this season of for the Houston Texans here, so that is what we are doing today. We're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla the dog is here with me today. As you all know, if you're a returning listener, she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. On this episode of the podcast, it is a Monday morning quarterback edition for sure. I don't have a name for this yet. I'm struggling here. I'm like trying to figure out. I'm like, no, that's a thing already. This is, I don't know what to call this quite yet. This is a new edition of the podcast. We're gonna see. We're really trying some new things out here, with football season. So maybe Monday might be a time to kind of recap the Texans game. Maybe that's something I can continue to incorporate in my Paul's Picks when I do the Pick'em podcast, maybe on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I don't know. Definitely return listeners, or even new listeners, let me know what you think. We can keep it all together as one podcast, as a longer one, or we could split it up into smaller ones. Definitely wanting to see what y'all prefer too, because if we're able to do it, we'll give it our best shot here. So today we are kind of recapping the Houston Texans beating the Buffalo Bills 23-20 in yesterday's game. And folks, if you're a new listener, welcome to the podcast. I'm very grateful that you're here to talk some Houston Texans football with me. The silliest man on the internet. This isn't my first. This ain't my first podcast. This ain't my first rodeo. I've done a lot of other podcasts before. They're mostly comedy related, as I said, because of my comedy experience. But a lot of my podcasts are described as irreverent, and so it's. I actually do love Houston sports, but I am a very silly person. So it is, it's a mixed bag sometimes. So welcome to the podcast, return listeners. You might have picked up on the fact, that I, during the Paul's Picks and stuff like that, when I was talking this past week about the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans game, that I picked the Buffalo Bills. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I reverse jinxed them and everybody should pat me on the back and when I'm in Houston, buy me a drink. You know, I'm not saying that this is my reverse jinx working. But I am admitting that I got this pick wrong, at least. You know, when we do the Paul's picks, remember this is a comedy podcast. You know, I definitely get a lot of those picks wrong. You know, I don't wanna brag, but I'm doing okay in my league. But you know, I've had some struggles this season, and getting this pick wrong is something I'm very happy about getting wrong. I was watching this game with Carla, of course. She, you know, now that baseball season is over for us, she's like, I guess there's no playoffs, and I'm like, yeah, there's no more playoffs. It's all over now, and so we're watching football together. She was very happy to watch the game. For those of you who are return listeners, you know that she gets treats during the games when we score. So she was happy that now that baseball season is over for us, that she has another way to watch TV and gets treats. You know, she's like, are we going to have to just watch SNL and whenever you think there's a good sketch on, you're going to give me a treat? I don't know. We have to find some other system in which I can watch TV and get rewarded that, because that was a great system. So we watched the game together. I watched it with my partner Sarah as well. And she was very happy that I got to watch this game. She's been doing picks with me in the league as well, so she's been invested in some of these games to see if she gets them right. You know, we are a little competitive that way, but she was like, you know, you kind of hedged your bet. You know, you're going to be excited either way, because if they win, then they win the game, and if they lose, then you at least get your pick right. And I was like, yep, you know, no matter what, like that meme where you're tapping your head. You know what? It's big brain time, you know. I'm stammering because I'm struggling to pull my notes up. Is truly what's happening right now. I'm trying to vamp a little bit as as I'm struggling to get my phone open. I guess for whatever reason, I am smiling right now so much because the Houston Texans have won that my phone didn't recognize me. You know, the ID was like, no, this isn't Paul. This guy is happy. But I got it to work. We're looking at the Texans game here. You know, they won 23-20. They started off with some early offense, getting 14 points in the first quarter. They ended up getting 3 points every quarter going forward, but the Buffalo Bills kind of came back in the second half of the game, scoring 14 points of their own in the third quarter there. But really the big things in this game was we'll kind of look at the overarching stats here. The Houston Texans had 425 offensive yards in this game. That's 331 passing yards, as well as 94 rushing yards. One of the reasons I was skeptical of the Houston Texans being able to win this game was their rushing attack has looked very sad lately, and they're leaning on it very early, and some critics would even say stubbornly of offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, maybe even stubbornly leaning on the rushing attack when it is not being effective. So, I was thinking that trend wasn't going to bode well for the Houston Texans, but obviously with 94 rushing yards, it's not like, going to be like week one where we're all excited about where the Texans are trending, but that's good enough to establish a running game and to get you some passing yards. Obviously, 331 will do the trick. Let's see, C.J. Stroud, the whole team, the Texans were 28-38 for 28-38 on passing. They got 18 first downs, and they still had 7 penalties, though. One of the reasons I was also worried about our Houston Texans in this game and why I couldn't pick them over the Buffalo Bills is because I was so worried about their penalties. They've been incurring a lot of penalties lately. There's been a lot of, we'll call it subpar offensive line play. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some some kind of offensive line expert, but we definitely all agree with all the penalties, with some of the efforts, or not the efforts, because they're giving great effort, but with some of the results that have happened from some of these plays, it's not the offensive line play that we were hoping for in week one. I was so bullish on our offensive line out the gate, but it's definitely improving, at least in this week. 7 penalties isn't exactly what we want, but it is. Oh, it's okay, Carla. Oh, Carla, she's sneezy. She sneezed over there. Gesundheit, Carla. But yeah, we are kind of, maybe, you can't be happy about 7 penalties for sure, but maybe we're kind of trending in the right direction there. At least it's good enough to win this game by 3 points at the very end, off of the leg of an amazing kicker. Truly kind of saved D'Amico Ryans at the end of this game. Was looking a little nervous. I'm not a body language expert or anything, but he was looking a little tense. But once the kick went through, everybody in Houston, including D'Amico Ryans, could breathe a huge breath of fresh air. While I picked the Texans to lose this game, I still didn't want them to lose the game. Wearing their first H-Town uniforms with the H on the helmet, it looked so cool. I loved those jerseys. The little blue outline on the Texans logo on the sleeve. Everything about that jersey was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I'm not the type of guy that likes to buy jerseys, but that jersey, that H-Town jersey, that's a solid one. That's one that I'm not gonna buy it. I don't have the money to be buying jerseys all the time, but that jersey's pretty cool. The Houston Texans in this game, they did give up the ball a couple of times on a fumble and interception. Just a really tough interception from C.J. Stroud. He definitely was very frustrated by it at that point in the game. It felt really big. It felt almost like a huge momentum shift. Luckily, the Texans were able to hold off in this game and win it at the end by just having enough offense and having having a good kicker. But it was a team effort. It was good to see. But those two moments of giving the ball away, obviously, it felt tight at late in this game. As much as I was wanting the Texans to win, I was just like, oh no, like if they're losing it by giving away the ball and by penalties, I'm gonna be so sad. I was hoping they were getting better here. We were all hoping the Texans weren't going to beat themselves. They didn't, but man, it felt tight at times. When it came to the defensive effort, I don't know why I keep using effort, folks. I don't know. I think I'm just I'm a little tired. I've been doing a lot of podcast editing. I've been working a lot, but I wanted to get on and talk about the Texans really quickly because I was so excited, very happy about this game. They did, I guess what I wanted to talk about was a sacks. Each team picked up a sack. It was good to see. I believe, let me look that up, for the sack for the Houston Texans. Why am I'm scrolling so far? Is Khalil Davis. Yeah, Khalil Davis picked up that sack for the Texans in the game. It's good to see. It was Josh Allen and the Bills. I was very nervous as to what they were going to be able to do against our defense. The defense played a great game. 20 points from the Bills. That's good enough to get your team a win. And obviously the offense was able to move the ball just enough to get that win. Fairbairn is now the all-time leading scorer in Houston when it comes to points in Houston Texans history. Obviously, that goes hand in hand. I don't know why I felt like I should clarify that, but sometimes I don't know. I feel like I don't clarify things. And then the things I do clarify, it's over clarification. I don't know, but I'm sure some of you can relate, and if you can't, well, good for you. It was definitely a tight game, but I felt at the end, once they moved the ball, once they kind of got in position there and it was up to Kaimi, I was like, we got this. This is in the bag. I'm not worried. Even when it started to fade a little bit left and or when it started to go a little left and faded back into to the goalpost, I wasn't worried. I was just like, nah, this is what this guy does. So it was weird. It was very weird for me to watch a football game live. That doesn't happen very frequently. A lot, there's, it's you have to have a lot of apps and pay for a lot of things to watch a lot of these games. And because I'm out here in Los Angeles, a lot of the games that are available to me to watch live are going to be the Rams games in this location, because that's the Chargers games, I should say, too. The Chargers more frequently because that's what CBS will play instead of the Texans game out here in LA. So a lot of times I'm following the game and I'm watching the game in pieces during Sunday and then in total sometimes on Monday. So it was a rare occasion that I watched the game live and I felt confident that the Texans were going to win the game at the end. It was incredible. I'm very happy that I'm following the Texans this season because it seems like it's going to be a lot more fun of a ride than it has been in previous seasons. Let's kind of look at C.J. Stroud here. C.J. Stroud was 28 for 38 passing. I didn't think anybody else took a pass, but I was hesitant to say that was just Stroud's passing numbers earlier when I wasn't sure. I try really hard not to give out misinformation here and bad stats. I try not to be lazy about it. I do joke around sometimes, but I try really hard not to be too lazy, folks. But then sometimes I'm just overcautious. But yeah, so C.J. Stroud was 28 for 38. His passing percentage was 73.7% with 331 yards. He got one touchdown, one interception, as mentioned earlier, with a passer rating of 97.6 in the game. C.J. Stroud looked great. Outside of that one interception, that just really, I'm not even sure what happened there. I haven't watched all of the post game press conferences or anything like that. I was very busy editing and getting my other podcast Sunday morning pre-recorded out and available. So I doing all of that took up all my time today and up until this point. But I'll definitely see what CJ Stroud had to say about it, and we'll talk about it probably on the Paul's Picks podcast a bit. But outside of that one pass, that one attempt, I was very once again CJ Stroud is giving me hope and making me believe in this team. So you love to see it. And from the rushing perspective, it was really good to see Cam Akers and Dare Ungumbawale out there. They, as a combo, did a great job. Akers had 9 attempts for 42 yards and a touchdown. His longest run in this game was actually 15 yards, and he had an average of 4.7 yards per attempt, which was a lot better than his previous game. His previous games this season as well, I should say. Cam Akers looked a lot better than Dare. He had 15 attempts and got 30 yards. Obviously not the same average-wise, but, it was good to see them both go out there and they while Ungumbawale's numbers aren't exactly popping off the page or anything, he really did kind of help to slowly batter down the Bills and at least give the impression that the Texans are not afraid to run the ball. C.J. Stroud also ran the ball. He went 3 attempts for 27 yards. And Tank Dell had an attempt for -5 yards. On the receiving side, Stephon Diggs had a huge game in this game, getting 6 receptions for 82 yards, with a longest catch of 18 yards. However, very sadly, and we were very worried about this actually, Nico Collins had a nice game. However, a very short game. He was targeted twice, had 2 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. So extremely efficient game that definitely helped the Texans win the game overall. However, had a hamstring injury and was pulled out of the game and did not return. the announcers definitely mentioning the offense of the Texans without Nico Collins perhaps not having the same effect as it does with him, and it's much more explosive. Tank Dell was good in this game as a receiver. He was targeted 4 times and had 4 receptions for 38 yards. It was good to see him be in the mix as well. Dalton Schultz was in the mix, had 4 receptions and 34 yards. Ngumba Wale had 6 receptions for 57 yards. So, I guess that's kind of why the rushing receptions don't bother me much, because I also saw him get so many pass receptions or rushing attempts. I don't know. I think I must have made. I think I had a slip there, but his rushing attempts didn't bother me too much because his passing receptions were also in the mix, and overall he definitely was a weapon and a key to this offense in this game. Xavier Hutchinson definitely got to play as well. He had 2 receptions for 31 yards. Cade Stover got a couple receptions. Cam Akers touched the ball a couple times as well. This offense just spreading around the love, the Cap Calloway special. Everybody eats when you come to CJ's house. It was good to see the offense spread it around. You definitely worried about them winning the game without Nico Collins, and we're starting to worry if Bobby Slowick's game plan maybe relied around Nico too much, and without him, there wasn't maybe enough pivoting out of that game plan. At least was effective. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. Maybe this Bobby Slowick hate is even affecting me, and I'm now just ready to beat up on him as well. I don't know. Definitely call in. Leave me a voicemail at speakpipe.com/spacecadetsports to let me know what you think about Bobby Slowick and if I'm being a hater. But yeah, the defense was great. You said I was very happy with the overall effort they did get. I don't why I keep the overall results of the defense is definitely what I'm trying to say here. But the defense holding Buffalo to 20 points, getting a sack, really playing an overall great game and keeping the offense just within it was fantastic. On the special teams, I believe it was John McClain, Houston Texans beat writer, that was talking about how the Texans have prided themselves in their special teams for so many years and so many seasons, but it's kind of looked a little tougher as of late. Oh no, there is a package walking up to the door. I am trying to talk over the delivery guy who looks like, oh, please don't ring the doorbell. I hate it when, they're walking away. Oh man, I thought the delivery driver was going to ring the doorbell and completely freak Carla out as I was complaining about the special teams here. But Robert Woods had kind of a tough day at the office. On some of his returns there. Luckily, it did not cost the Texans in this game. But I'm not John McClain. I'm not a special teams expert either. But you're hoping that if the Texans can execute, if they can kind of start really shaving these penalties down to as low as they can go to, sometimes there's just little things that happen within the game. I get it. I'm not perfect either. But if they can start kind of getting the penalties down, that would really start equating to more wins. If they can, just the little things like the false starts and kind of letting the punt go behind your head if you can't do anything with it, like those little things. If they just start sharpening up these little things, they are going to have a really fantastic season. I know a lot of people are going to be bullish on these Texans going forward. Yes, but any pun I say, just by the way, even if I completely throw it away, is always intended here. If you're one of those people that says no pun intended, I will take that pun and I will intend it for you twice as hard. I intend every pun I say, even if I say it seriously. But I really think that a lot of Texans fans or haters, no matter what would have happened this game, would have overreacted. This is very much an overreaction game because it is early in the season still. The Bills look fantastic and the Texans have kind of looked a little suspect, if we're being honest. They've been looking a little sus. So this is kind of a game where a lot of people are looking at them to see, who are you, Texans? What type of team are you? Were you overrated, or were we right about you? And I think the Texans still have some things to prove. I think they're a good team. They're a great team. I think why they're projected to be so high is because obviously they're in a division where the AFC South isn't exactly, lighting the world on fire right now. So the Texans are obviously set up to be, division favorites for a couple of seasons if they can play their cards right. And I think that coming out of the gate, they've had a little bit more struggles than we've anticipated. Maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump, for head coach DeMeco Ryans. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just, trying to make some silly metaphor. But I think that the Texans are getting right, and this is really going to help them, feel that they are winners, they can do it, they're not imposters, and that they're going to go forward and kind of get better. And as long as they can shave these penalties down and kind of stop with the sillier mistakes if they could just sharpen those things up, I really think that this Texans team is going to be absolutely fantastic and be the team that I projected them to be, and so many people projected them to be at the beginning of this season. I think that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. We'll definitely be back soon with another football podcast to talk more about the NFL. We'll do the Paul's picks for NFL Week 6, and we'll recap how I did on Week 5. We'll recap how I've done on the season in total. I'll show those receipts and let you know how I've done my total win-loss record there on the season, and also do a fantasy check-in. I'll let you know how I'm doing in my fantasy football league as well. You could totally, I'm drawing back the curtain. I'll let you see exactly how good or bad I am doing in these games. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, folks. We are a small podcast and appreciate every listener out there. You really do so much for us. Please, if you've got to this point in the podcast, help me out by a little like, a rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it. Smash those buttons for me wherever you are listening to this podcast on. I really do appreciate it. It goes a long way for a small podcast like this. If you would be so kind, check out the Substack. That's at spacecadetsports.substack.com. If you give the email to Space Cadet Sports there on the website, there's a whole privacy policy. You can check in with that through Substack. But what we do is we email every single article, every podcast, and every meme dump directly to you through Substack. Or if you're like me, you want the mobile experience instead, download the Substack app. Search Space Cadet Sports, click the box that you want notifications instead of emails, and you have a app experience that gives you a notification every time we drop a podcast, an article, or a meme dump. I like that experience a lot better. But either way, it is 100% free. We are supported by listeners like you, so you can support the Space Cadet Sports Substack, and we have a sale going on for spooky season. Hit the spooky season sale tab. You can donate a little bit as a subscriber. You can do that annually. It's the best way to do it. I believe the sale is just for $6, so you could do just a little donation there to the Substack to help support the podcast. Definitely you could let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think of Bobby Slowick. You could reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, or at Paul Salazar Jr. That's my personal account on all social media platforms. Or you can call in, like I said earlier, that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Let me know your take. If it isn't too crazy, maybe it'll even make the podcast. I could throw that voicemail on the air. Thank you so much for listening, folks. I really do appreciate it. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Texans.